we had a listener in Fort Worth that had sent us a note and wanted to know what we thought about what was going on with the advertising pivot that's happening during the event. We all know what the event is, as John did his air quotes and a wink, wink, nod, nod.
We
But
can't say the
so
real
we
thing; it gets dinged.
can't say it. We get dinged. We get taken off of
Yeah.
social media. Meanwhile, Donald Trump can do whatever he wants. Now this will get us dinged, but we can't mention something, nothing, the event. So there it is. So we picked. You want to tell us a little bit about the
Well, yeah.
letter from our
So
Fort Worth listener?
this is
What
one of our
what his note asked you?
Fort Worth listener and fan, and if you've been watching the show for a while, this is one of our fans who is also a devotee of providing us with Oreos to sample. I think you saw in his note, Tim, that he said, I'm not going to be sending any Oreos for a while because he's, sheltering in place and doesn't want to do the post office or any of that stuff. Someday those cookies will be coming our way again. But he said basically in his note, what do you think of the pivot? And he believes that some brands have done better than others. So I have a bunch of logos up on the screen right now. The ad campaign that he actually referenced off the bat was for the Wynn Hotel Group, Encore, the Las Vegas group.
Right.
Tim was going to talk about some ads from from Facebook and Budweiser, and I was going to look at some from Seamless and Progressive. But the Wynn Resort Group put out depending on the edit you see, it could be 30 seconds or almost 2 minutes long, talks about how they, as a corporation, they supported all their employees. They made sure that everybody was getting a paycheck through the entire these last several months. And it was really, and they showed all their associates from people who were front of house, at the service desk, or someone who would greet you at a restaurant, all the way to housekeeping. And at the very end of this Wynn ad, it's like, and now we want to welcome you back because Nevada was open for some stuff, and so is Vegas. So I thought it was a really nice way of showing corporate culture, corporate giving back, and it just gave you a nice feeling about that whole hotel group. Did you watch it at all, Tim?
I did, and it was funny because the after I watched that and after we talked about the advertising pivot, I started poking around, and I actually found somebody who did an opinion piece, which I thought was funny. And I think probably the ads you picked and probably the ads I picked probably all fell into this. But they said that this ad person, and I don't have his name off the top of my head or her name, but essentially said they felt all the advertising lately has fallen into 4 stages. And they said there was this kind of confused and muddled approach in the beginning. Then we were mournful and empathetic. Then we were resolute. And now we're antsy for it to all end.
It sounds like they did anger, denial, compromise, acceptance, right? Like the stages of grief.
And then they said, and within that, all this advertising fell into other sorts of themes, which was very 9/11-ish.
Yeah.
They said there was the emotional tug on the heartstrings. We're here for you, we care, you can count on us. And then you go into the God bless our heroes, which would be the healthcare professionals and all these people that are working for us in the grocery stores or so forth. And then the empowerment part of, we've got this. Or and now they said it's very much into the category of we're clean and we're back.
So get off your tuchus.
We're clean. Come by. So I laughed about that because the 2 ads that I had picked that you mentioned, both Facebook and I picked one for Budweiser. And I also later on, after we did our notes, I picked one for Toyota because I thought Toyota, kind of typical Toyota, covered 2 or 3 of these themes all in one. But do you want me to tell you about the
please. So your
first 2 I picked? So I took some notes here. So there's a 60-second spot from Facebook that's been out, and it's called Cheers for the Front Line. And what they did is it's a 60-second spot. It tugs at your heartstrings. And it tries to place Facebook as a what they call it, a beacon of positivity. They got a lot of BS from listeners or from people who watched it because they how the ad is set up. It looks like they're actual posts from people, and people that work in healthcare, and people that the FedEx driver, or people that are doing delivery and grocery store, and warehouse people, sort of thing, transportation. But they said the actual posts are not real, that they use some stock footage or whatever, but tried to make them feel they were real. I thought that was a little bit
I would have liked
kind of rough
real.
on
I would have
Facebook.
liked real better, and I would imagine they could have pulled real, right?
Well, they said the difficulty has been, in the very beginning, you couldn't get in to do editing and editing suites and get a lot of this stuff done.
Yes.
So they worked with what they had. Essentially, they kind of cobbled together things from what they had. But I thought the commercial was well done until I read the counterpoint about it of people calling BS on it of not being necessarily real. But the ending of the ad says more together, especially now. And that was kind of their theme. The Budweiser ad was again a very emotional one and harkened back, I thought, and then when I read the critique of it, um, the person who critiqued it felt the same way I did. But the ad is "Together we will run again," and essentially is the Clydesdale horses, very similar again to the 9/11 ad, where remember the horses left St. Louis and they ended up
And Jersey
looking
looking
over at
at
the World Trade
Liberty
Center.
Park or something, right? And they looked over at where the World Trade
Right.
Center was. Yeah.
Well, this is the same thing again. The horses are leaving St. Louis. They're kind of out of the barn. They run by the arch. They run over the George Washington Bridge. Then they're out in the plains somewhere. They're in the snow. They're in the desert. And then it says together. So essentially, it's saying together we will all run again. Stay with us. We'll get together again soon. We'll all run together again. And so I thought it was well done. And then the one that I pulled after we had talked was one from Toyota that I just saw the other. It was last night, and it was for Toyota service. So at the dealerships,
Mm-hmm.
so they're going for Toyota service. And I thought this one was hilarious because it was almost as if they read this ad because essentially they said, "We're here for you. We're clean, and you can count on us."
Boom, boom,
And
boom.
they hit all three. We're here.
We're clean. You
We're
count on
clean,
us.
and you can count on us. We're here to serve you. So I thought in typical Toyota fashion, they're keeping all bases covered, and
Smartly.
that was the theme of the advertising. And I saw one from Uber too that did sort of the same thing. The takeaway was no mask, no
Right, and
ride.
we did our part. You do yours. That was one that I was going to talk about actually on the
Was it?
side because so our
Yeah. So which ones did you
well,
like?
so our listener in Fort Worth, who provided this story idea and the example of the Wynn Hotel Group or the Resorts Group, that falls into this category of the brand saying. We're aware. We're taking care. We're taking care of our
Right.
people, and you could imagine. And since Tim and I have done this for a living, being in the room where someone says, "What do you think the ad should be about? What do we have to say as the Wynn Hotel Group?" And I think they did a great job. I looked at a couple of companies who did not necessarily make commentary on what was going on or provide like we're here for you, like, we're going to get this through this together is one of these things we hear a lot. Instead, I think they just took their creative beats from literally what was happening in real time. So one of the companies, do you have Seamless down by you, or is this more of an urban thing? Seamless is like a food
What?
delivery company.
I've not heard of it. No.
Yeah, so they have a bunch of restaurants that can subscribe. You can order through one app called Seamless to a number of restaurants, and then the food gets delivered to your door. So, as you said a moment ago, there's been limited access to editing suites and to post production facilities and production in general. So you have to use what you got, and this commercial is put together with iPhone video, and it's all examples of people being happy and thankful that someone delivered from a restaurant, and it shows examples of the food being left at the door and someone opening the door and waving to the delivery guy who's like more than 6 feet away, and did you get your tip, and thank you so much, you made our night. So it's just literally a reflection of the time we were in and still are. And I thought that was kind of smart because it wasn't a commentary. It was just like, this is the reality. We're still delivering. We're providing food for you, and we're going to keep doing that. And Progressive was another brand that I looked at because Progressive picked up on the Zoom thing. A lot of people picked up on the whole
Yeah.
multi-screen people talking. But they did, of course, with Progressive, there's always a joke or there's something funny going on. So Flo's trying to, they have a bunch of them where at the one end, Flo's like, "Can you see me?" And her whole face is covering the camera. So I like that. And then Google did a similar thing to Facebook where they basically took a lot of the services that people advertise on Google platforms and stitched that together into a little story of how things are still getting done and we're moving forward and we'll adapt and we'll change. And then everybody else falls into different categories. Bob was noticing a mattress ad the other day that we've seen hundreds of times, and Bob goes, "Wait a
Right.
minute, wait a minute. Did you see that?" And I said, "They digitally put masks on people that were testing out the mattresses." So they like, oh, we have this old footage, but hey, all these people are standing around. It's not. But isn't that amazing how quickly this has evolved? And if you're a creative at an agency and you are struggling to work with a client who wants to have an updated message or something, that you're struggling with a really hard problem. You can't shoot new stuff. And I like the mattress company. Well, what do you think we should do? Well, we could go into post and have someone put masks on the people. I mean, it's just
Well, they said that, and that's the benefit with auto companies when they did lots of what they called running footage, which means there's just half an hour or so of footage of the cars just going through their paces with kind of an anonymous person. You don't even see the inside in some cases. But that's where this stuff would come in because you're exactly right. One of the criticisms or one of the challenges that all these advertisers have is we can't go out and shoot stuff.
yeah.
So you can't go out to Los Angeles and start shooting in a studio or get all the sound and the production done. So it's become a challenge unless you can do it internally. I'm glad you brought up the Google one. I love that Google advertising. The one question I always have about Google is I wonder why they advertise.
Because they're so big and it's so
Well,
ubiquitous, right?
right. I mean, I don't know. Did you ever question why
I
they would
do all the
advertise?
time. I do all the time. When your brand is synonymous with an action, Google it.
Right,
How many times did you used to see back in the day ads from Xerox? Xerox it, right? I mean,
right.
I it, you
Go buy a Kleenex. Have you ever seen Kleenex
Blair knows the
advertised? I haven't seen
Kleenex,
Kleenex.
yeah, and
Get me a Kleenex.
uh-huh.
Oh, it's over near the Xerox machine. I don't know. We don't have any. We'll just find out where they
Google it.
Google it.
It's so true,
It's right near
right?
the
Yeah,
Xerox machine. Right near the Xerox. You still say that. Make a
like
Xerox
a
for me.
Xerox.
Really?
So
No one
you
has
have a
this poor
great
Xerox.
point about that. And the other thing that I have you seen any Apple advertising? I have not actually. And they normally only do it around the release of certain products, like when I got my new iPhone, the iPhone SE. Well, it's their new low end phone, but it came out a while ago. But other than that, nothing.
I did see a digital ad from them, and I scratched my head because I thought it was trying a little too hard. And I'll do it a disservice by trying to explain it. But essentially, it was somebody was somebody was trying to either FaceTime or whatever you do with the trying to contact
Yeah,
somebody
FaceTime.
and FaceTime, and it was I just thought it fell flat. It to me looked like it was forced Black Lives Matter
Hmm.
advertising. To me, it was disingenuous. I just didn't quite understand it, what they were trying to do. And I remember it popped up I was online and it popped up as an ad. I thought, oh, Apple, because again, like you just said, you don't really see a lot of Apple advertising. And I looked at it and I thought, what are they doing here? It just, to me, it just seemed to be
Out of
kind of out of
place.
left field.
Yeah.
It was off brand. To me, it felt off brand. You can do an inclusion or a diversity ad without being off brand. And to me, it felt off
Well,
brand.
if you were back in your role of director of marketing, and let's say it was a different product than a car, and cars have a automobile category can advertise all year long, and they could vary that, like you said with the Toyota ad, or if you we have local dealers who are doing ads like if you have to wait for your car to be serviced, we have a safe room, like a like a safe house, the safe room for you. But if someone approached me, let's say you came to me and said, "Hey, as agency, we want to do a new 30-second spot. We think it's important to be out there right now. What do you think the message should be?" That's why I think you chose some great examples, and I think mine are good examples of either playing off the event in the sense of behaviors. Like that whole Zoom thing is a
Right.
behavior, and it's a way we're connecting. Or do you go out and make a statement like the Wynn Hotel Group did and basically said, look how well we're treating our staff and our employees. They're our family. I don't know that there's anything in between, right?
Yeah, I think the overall, if you were to try to pick one of those themes, if you and again, when they were broken down into the either we're here for you or we care, or we got this, we're strong, or that you can count on us, we're clean and we're back. I would probably lean to we're here for you
Yeah.
and we care, but that's just me. They talked about in one of these ads, they actually talked about one that they thought stuck out from Domino's because we all know that Domino's delivers pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But they did a whole ad around the fact that if you're unemployed and you're out of work, we're hiring.
Yeah. Great point.
And we
Great
need
point.
drivers so that had nothing so that had more to do with we're here to provide something and be helpful, and it happened to be Domino's Pizza. So I probably would go to the we're here for you and we care. That's where I would lean to. But that was very much the when I was at Subaru, the mantra anyway. It was very much we used to call it the Ben and Jerry's of car companies. It was very much about community and about people and the car as being part of your life. So I would probably do the care and we're here sort of
You
thing.
know, that answer is perfect, in my opinion. You know why? You get more mileage out of a campaign like that. It's not we're here for you is a message that you can run now for the next 2 or 3 months, right? It's not
Right.
specific to a point in time. Progressive can do that as well. They can keep playing off the cultural changes in terms of stylistically doing that Zoom thing or having fun with it. But it was a great topic, and I'm glad our listener brought it up because I've been puzzling about it for weeks. When I watch advertising now, I'm like, oh my God, there's millions of dollars of creative that they can't use, or they're going to
Right.
use it and they're going to cringe because everything changes so rapidly now that what was the norm 4 weeks ago is no longer the norm now. And I don't mean to cast stones or anything, but let's say you're a tourist attraction down in Florida, and a month ago it looked like everything was fine, and you could start putting out advertising. We're taking care. Come visit, and then events overtake you, and now
Right.
every dime you spent on marketing is literally just been you might as well take a Bic lighter and
Well, I'm sure there are millions and millions, if not billions of dollars worth of advertising that has not run and probably will not run. That was either in the can or, the spring selling season is big for lots of brands.
yeah, yeah,
And as you mentioned, resorts and all these other things. I'm sure there's probably a line longer than you'd want to be responsible for
yeah,
of advertising
yeah.
that's just not going to run. But to your point of the person, our listener, which won't give us his name, our listener in Fort Worth, if any of you out there do have ideas for topics for Shop Talk, or some of you have submitted business birthdays in the past or other sort of things, we do appreciate it. And we like you guys being part of the show too. So be sure to send them along to letters@focusgroupradio.com.